because you might forget it by the time I get through all of this. Yes?
I had a question for you. Are you familiar with the issues that we're having regarding the buses, having staff and busing?
Yes.
So how that's gonna probably impact enrollment as well for kids that can't get to school?
Yeah, so that's a big, that's a big thing, and we'll go through that here in a minute, but, or we can just talk about it now. So, busing, home to school transportation is not required by law, but it's definitely something that we need to do for kids. That's what we want to do for kids. When we look at our budget, we're between $3 and $4 million in transportation costs. So we looked at that 9.5 million. So if we were to eliminate transportation, we could get between $3 and $4 million a year toward that 9.5. That would be a big chunk of money. We would still have to provide special ed transportation. And so the thoughts are we could do that with vans and not have the buses. That whole department is very expensive. Right now we need to buy a $400,000 lift for the buses, which dragging our feet on that till we really make the final decision on busing. Yes, we need to get our kids to school every day, and we got to get them home from school. But if you're looking at $3 to $4 million, that's approximately 35 or 40 teachers. So, what's your choice?
Have you thought about subcontracting that out or try to get bids of the private company to do it?
Yeah. So what we did is, well, we can't find bus drivers, we can't find mechanics. We lost our lead transportation person, so we've been struggling. And then the interim lead actually got a new job, so he was done at the end of December. So then we're right during Christmas break, we're panicking. How the heck are we going to get kids to school? And so we met with the transportation department and the bus drivers, and they were great at coming up with solutions. And we talked about farming out the mechanic duties to a couple of, since we're all spread out, like kind of Quincy area and different areas for some of the mechanic stuff. We have towing that we need, and then we have just other maintenance. We have DMV checks, we have some other stuff going on. And so they did a really good job coming together and said, hey, we think that we can make this work throughout the spring. So what we did is we reduced the routes to where there's one route per community of the 4 communities, and that's how we're going to try to get through the spring. So that's where we're at with transportation. We're going to see how it goes. As far as the, contracting out, we're doing that, especially for mechanics, because we don't have any mechanics.
I was talking about the whole transportation. There's companies out there that provide transportation. Buses, their own buses. They do their own maintenance. They do everything.
Yeah, and that's that.
So you might look at that.
That might be a possibility.
$1 million a year right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're still going to pay money for it.
Yeah,
but yeah, that is a possibility.
But they put with the bus drivers and the union, then you're paying the retirement and all of that. You pay that company and they deal with all of that.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. But yeah. So I mean, all that stuff is on the table, and it's definitely worth looking into. So on the transportation piece, we're limping through the spring with one route per community, and then we're going to see where we land as things go on. Does that answer your question? I'm a politician, I can just, go around. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it doesn't work for me with politicians, so I don't do well with them. I'm pretty direct.
So, so anyway, that's where we're at. And then, but the final decisions need to be made in the next couple months in regards to all of this stuff, whether it's transportation or anything else that needs to be cut. But we definitely need to cut. We need to cut deep. And so, I'm not going to be up here telling you, it's all going to be okay, because it's not. We're going to be cutting a lot of jobs and a lot of departments. So, okay, so that's that. We need to cut 9.5 million, and then the next part of it, that's kind of like the overview from our November meeting. And so we'll kind of go into the draft fiscal stabilization plan. And so it was developed by the November meetings, by staff input. We even did a student survey. Did you guys get the student survey? Did? All right, cool. And so we got input from community, from parents, not as much participation as we'd like, but we definitely got quite a bit. So, and really we were looking for values of each community, because we know that each community is a little bit different and what they think is important. And so we were able to receive that. In a spreadsheet, we basically have each community broken out and their input, and it varies depending on which community. So, so that plan is coming with all of our good technology. There it is, okay. And so a couple of things to, all right, there we go. There's one good piece of information here in this process.
Do you want to start at one?
Can we get it bigger?
I'm gonna try that. No, that's as big as it gets.
That's as big as we get?
Someone give me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's your glasses. Okay, so anyway, it's starting with guiding principles that we received from the communities, and I'm sure you can't see that, but so protect core student opportunities. So that's both, student engagement and academics. Begin reduction outside of the classroom before impacting instruction. So that's important. Review administrative and district office structures for efficiencies. Super important. Strengthen communication and transparency. That's part of what we're doing in this process, and as many Facebook posts and everything else that we can do for communication. And ensure reductions are strategic, equitable, and student-centered. So those are the big concepts that we are functioning by. And so some reductions that have already been done, if we scroll up a little bit on there. So before I got here, Andrea was basically took on the district office. Some of the people left, and then she restructured a lot of that. And as a result, we saved $198,000 there. So some of those positions are county office funded, some of them are district funded, but overall, yeah, it was $198,000 savings. We're also looking at a position or two now to reduce it a little bit more. I mean, on the one hand, we have to have the infrastructure to run the district, and on the other hand, we need to make it efficient. So, that's the balance that we have in the whole process. So those are operational efficiencies. Consolidate. So one thing that surprised me, I guess, is position control is where you have a employee, and you have their salary, and you have their benefits, and you have where they work and all that. And the district didn't have that. So they didn't know what an employee cost or what the whole thing did. So basically they didn't know how much money they had or what the costs were. So when there were decisions that were made, it wasn't based on really a good budget. And then I guess I'll go into that a little bit deeper. The audits in the district were about 1.5 years late. So, you do your budget, you get through the year, you have an auditor come in and do the audit, and then, you make the adjustments there, and then, you get better. Well, the audits were so late that they really weren't they didn't do a whole lot of good. Also, no position control, so we didn't know how much money there was. Another thing is there's the county office and there's the district, and it all just kind of blended together. We didn't know where the money was started and where it was going. That's in much better shape at this point. And then just in general, the workflows, I think are in pretty good shape at this point. So, could you scroll up a little bit, or?
That's the
Okay,
specific.
So when we went through position control, basically figuring out where everybody is and all that kind of stuff, this is the good news, is we went through position control and there were positions that were unfilled, positions that were just in there for some reason. And so with that, that's a $1.8 million savings. So that's the good news. So that's $1.8 million without affecting anyone's life. So that's the only good thing I have to say. 1.8 million is huge to find in position control. And so that, if you look at the 9.5, the 1.8 is a significant part of that. Now, we're talking, the 9.5 is a structural deficit. So it's really important to understand that. That means that whatever we cut, that's basically ongoing forever for the most part. So in other words, if we have a building that's $500,000 and we sell it, then that's great, we get the cash, but we don't save $500,000 a year, year over year. So when we're talking about the structural deficit, it's really important to keep in mind that savings has to be ongoing. So if we eliminate a $40,000 position, and we don't bring it back, then we're saving $40,000 a year forever, and then that counts toward the 9.5 million. And this 1.8 that we found is also counts toward the 9.5 million. So, all right, yes?
I was gonna ask about assets, and you identified that you were gonna sell the district-wide, but are there any assets that are gonna be going for sale?
There's not a whole lot. There's Taylorsville school site that we actually are all set to sell. So we just need to kind of pull the trigger on that. We've got some people to meet with. So that would be, a one-time thing. It wouldn't count against that 9.5 million, but it would be cash, and cash is good to have. Then the other, I guess we'll get there. The other significant savings is in Quincy, we have Pioneer Elementary and Alder Elementary. And so two different campuses, fairly expensive to run those two campuses. If we were to consolidate those, which is the plan, we put them all at Alder and save approximately $600,000 a year on that consolidation. And that, again, is part of the structural deficit. It goes against the 9.5. So that'll be a good savings. And the plan is to do that consolidation this summer, and they'll all be up at Alder. And the Pioneer site we can still use. We can rent it out to Head Start, to other programs that are maybe spending money somewhere else for a building. We can still use that site so that it's not just abandoned. We don't want to abandon it. So that's additional income coming into the district as well. So that's another piece of good news. Yes?
So I know that one of your main focuses is to just really focus on our graduation requirement classes, but what is going to happen to the advanced placement classes and the funding for that?
That's a really good question.
We still have to meet our APP requirements.
Okay.
And so a lot of that will be served through two of our online vendors, which we've done for several years, so.
Okay, and then, so, we're looking at finances right now, we're talking about finances, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we're providing a quality education to students, and so that includes student engagement, so we can't just say, well, here's your math and English class, go home, so we have to make sure that students are engaged, and then also, we have to really focus on student achievement. Our student achievement has not been good. I personally believe that we can do a lot of cuts and our student achievement can increase, it can improve, because we're going to be more targeted, we're going to be more focused on our goals, and Melissa has done a great job with MTSS and with different areas to where teachers in the district and administrators are focused on that student achievement, and I believe we're going to cut a bunch of money and we're going to increase our student achievement. So my personal opinion, I don't believe that money equals student achievement. So we can do this, and also keeping students engaged. If you want AP classes or you want sports or art or whatever, we don't throw it all out because we have, financial problems, but we have to be really clear on it. And then, so, go back to that concept, at the elementary school level, it's fairly easy. What we need to do is we need to maximize class sizes. We can't have a teacher with 12 students because just economically it doesn't work. But if we can increase those class sizes, even if it happens to be, combination classes or whatever, then that's what we have to do. At the high school level, if we have classes with 8 or 10 students in them, then we can't run those classes. It's just too expensive. So what we need to do is look at those master schedules at our high schools, the 3 high schools, and make sure that those high school class schedules are efficient and that we're maximizing our class sizes. And so it doesn't mean that we're not going to offer something if there's not enough students interested. So, if you offer a class and there's, 6 or 8 kids are interested, then we can't run the class. So then that makes everything more efficient and we're able to maximize our classes that way. Anything on that before we go on? Yes?
So if you're going to be consolidating or eliminating classes based on class size, then how is that going to impact the increased classrooms with just one teacher? Will there be teaching assistants assigned to that teacher? Because, that's pretty difficult for one teacher to be managing like 40 kids.
No, that's not at all what we're looking at.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking about, 25, 26 kids, not 40 kids.
No, but I mean, like, if the class gets, if you're consolidating classes, say you have 2 courses, same course, and you have like, 20 kids in one, and like, 30 in the other, or something, I'm trying to figure out how to word it.
Yeah.
To where your classes increase in size, are you going to also be offering the teachers a teaching assistant, so that if they do have larger classrooms, they have basically backup or assistance in teaching that larger classroom size?
We could do something like that, yeah, but we don't want, 40 kids in a classroom. So, yeah, so we're gonna, in that whole, Sarah's a lot better at this than I am, but just looking at those class set schedules and figuring out how many students in each one of those sections is gonna be kind of up to the principals as far as trying to eliminate the classes that are low enrolled. And if we come up with a class that has too many of them, we create another class, however that works. But we're not gonna be putting 40 kids in a classroom, so. Yes.
That answered my question.
Oh, good, thanks.
So aligning the student-teacher ratio, have you also aligned the administrator ratio to students? Or
Yeah,
is that all like
Yeah.
written down already, or is there some?
It's all up there, but, yeah, administration ratios, transportation department, teacher-student ratio realignment, consolidation of Quincy Elementary and athletic program, restructuring, shifting the non-personnel costs to ASB and boosters. So as far as the administrative ratios, we were trying to make it equitable throughout the communities, and so it's a little difficult. It's hard to leave a school without an administrator, but it's a bit of a challenge.
I could be using the wrong term. I mean, at like the district office level of administration, not like principal.
Oh,
down
okay,
each
all
side.
right.
I would do this.
So on the principal side, we're trying to keep leadership at the school level. At the district office level, we've cut that 188,000 from the district office, and we'll probably cut a little bit more this spring. So that's what we're doing at the district office, And so, I mean, it's, what is your, my automatic response is, well, cut leadership, cut administration, but this district needs good administration because it hasn't happened in the past, and it needs good leadership. And so we need to make sure that our Human Resources Department, our HR Department, our Curriculum Instructions Department are all solid at the district level to support schools. And if we neglect that too much, even though we've already cut, but if we neglect it too much, then we end up without the, without the results in the classroom. So there's fine, I mean, again, it's a fine line of reducing like we have, but not over, but not going too deep, I guess. And I guess that's for all these different departments too, so. And then, we get a lot of questions about athletics. So at this point, this is a draft plan, but at this point, the idea is to fund athletics, coaching positions, personnel positions, referees, but not the other stuff. So that's going to put a bigger burden on boosters and different communities to support that stuff. Yes?
So will there be pressure for students to take more online classes with dropping courses? So it's like, Virtual is already limited, like kids are taking AP US history already on Apex. So what's gonna happen when you drop more APs and who's gonna pay for those Apex classes?
I think they'll still be in place, yeah.
The core subjects are still there, and what our community values are CTE, band, athletics, and core instruction. That's what our community wanted.
Mhm.
And so when we create our master schedules, we started in January and we'll continue in February. We build our master schedules around core instruction and the values of our community. But some classes, so for example, if someone was in Spanish 3 or 4, they registered for Spanish 3 or 4, and there are only 6 kids who register for the course, we have to offer that online because we can't utilize a teacher for 6 students in a Spanish 3 or 4 class. That would be the same for other foreign languages and upper division math. It really will depend on our registration nights, and we're gonna try to do them earlier this year so that we can get good numbers to adjust our master schedule before school starts.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right.
I got a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying other stuff for sports, what does that include then? I mean, for the boosters we can take care of?
Stuff like uniforms, maybe travel,
Some
What is
equipment,
what is it gonna cover? What is the
the
district
district
gonna
will
cover?
cover personnel costs.
Like
So coaching, referees, athletic director,
maintenance, I'm sure.
yeah. Yeah, so then, so I mean, that's kind of a compromise because we want kids to be engaged and in sports, don't want to eliminate them, but also can't fund it all, So that's just kind of a compromised way to continue sports. Additional operational spending reductions, reducing or eliminating non-essential contracted services. So I mean, we have all kinds of contracts that we just really need to look at and make sure that we're efficient with that. Reviewing consultant and services agreements, limiting travel, conferences, and discretionary departmental budgets, reviewing subscriptions and licenses. If necessary, don't think we're gonna eliminate your favorite software or anything, but and restricting overtime and extra duty. We have a lot of extra duty in this district, more than I could ever imagine. So we really need to start reducing extra duty, unless it's, super essential. So.
What's deemed super essential?
snow removal.
Snow removal, that's, stuff like that. But, just being a lot more conscious of the approvals of extra duty. I think sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, extra duty, and then, then it just becomes a big payroll thing. So if we can reduce that and be conscious of the extra duty, I think it's gonna help budgetarily quite a bit. So community priorities, just to protect athletics, band, music, art, CTE, and vocational programs. And a lot of that stuff has designated funding, whether it's, CTE grant or it's Prop 28 or whatever it happens to be. So that's really great because in some of those situations, we don't even have to make a decision because it's designated funding to go to those areas. After school programs, that's categorical, that's a designated, so we shouldn't have to worry much about after school programs. We have ELOP, that is even an additional amount for after-school programs. Nutrition services is a priority, and so we need to continue to provide good meals for our kids. And then college and dual enrollment partnerships as much as we possibly can. I don't know that that's necessarily that expensive, but we need to really be working on that dual enrollment and those connections and relationships with whether it's Feather River College or Lassen College, depending on the part of the county. Questions? Thoughts? Yes, sir.
You said you were gonna conjoin Pioneer and Alder. How many kids from Pioneer are going to Alder once you do that?
That's a great question.
Is that safe?
That's a great question. Okay, so what's going to happen is, so if you look at those two sites, it's TK through sixth grade. So the sixth graders will go to Quincy Junior Senior High School, so that'll eliminate quite a few students. And then the addition from Pioneer to Alder, the difference in that is going to be 55 students. So there'll be an additional 55 students at Alder this year or next year compared to this year. So it shouldn't be and then we're looking at classrooms, the number of classrooms will be able to facilitate those students as well as some special ed classes and things like that.
And moving more kids to Quincy, what does that do to Quincy teachers?
Quincy's used to having a lot more kids than they have right now. So it's,
And it can handle that many kids?
oh, easily, yeah. There's actually a J wing, which the 7th and 8th graders are there now. And so there's a class or two classrooms for 6th graders. They'll be like self-contained in that area. And so the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will have their own wing, and that should be fairly easy. Yes?
With Adler, will there be problems with staffing? Like moving all those kids?
Well, we'll do the move in, June or July or whatever. And then, so we'll get the classrooms moved over to Alder from Pioneer. And then the 6th graders from there will go to Quincy Junior Senior High. And so it shouldn't be a problem. The teachers are able to they can basically pack up their stuff, and then we have movers move it over. And shouldn't be too difficult. We were originally thinking that we were going to need more classrooms at Alder, and after doing the calculations, luckily we don't have to have more classrooms, so that worked out really well.
Is there a duplicate staff that's gonna be eliminated, like attendance clerks and
Right.
whatnot, moving
Yeah.
over?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how many or who or anything like that, but there'll be some efficiencies just going into one campus like that. And so that will be really helpful.
And what was the deciding factor for the 6th graders to go to the high school versus the lower campus?
Space, for one. Even like adding more classrooms still would have been really tight with the 6th graders. I feel bad for 6th graders because I think the elementaries, the TK parents don't like them on their on their campus because they're too old, and then the 6th grade parents don't like them at the high school because they're too young. So poor 6th graders, but yeah. But so I think it'll work out really well there because they have their own little. The geography of the campus works out really well. They have them fairly isolated. You don't want them running around with juniors and seniors and stuff. So. Not that juniors and seniors are bad or anything like that, yeah.
Do you have the capacity at Quincy High School, like how many students it can hold?
Melissa, do you have any?
I don't know what the capacity is, but there are about 9 through 12, 260. I mean, there's 300 and something students there right now. So back in the day, there were over 500 students at Quincy High.
And is that safe?
Oh,
It's way
easily
less
safe.
than what they used to have.
Yeah, that's the thing is like there's been such a decline in enrollment that most of the campuses are, you look at Chester enrollment has really dropped. Those campuses are, there's plenty of space there. So the majority of the sites in the district are, there's not really capacity problems with them.
We've essentially lost the size of a school in the last 6 years. So it's like almost 200 students, which are more than Chester High, more than Chester L, more than Greenville, more than Alder, Pio.
Right.
So what happens if the district continues to lose more students? What happens?
So I guess we could get into that. So we are so most districts are funded on their ADA, their average daily attendance. And so for every student you have, you get so much money. We are a basic aid district. And so a basic aid district is funded on their property taxes. And so because of Lake Almanor and Chester and the big homes and everything over there, as well as some at Grey Eagle, when you look at the money that we would get for our ADA, like from the state, we actually have more funding than that through our property taxes. And so we're not funded on the ADA, we're funded on property taxes. If we lose ADA, it's not as significant like a regular district. So I think we only get like $1.6 million in LCFF state funding. So if our enrollment drops, it's not going to be as significant because we are basic aid funded with our property taxes, which is really interesting. I mean, you look at places that are basic aid like Marin County and Santa Clara and those places, I mean, they're like basic aid, they have a ton of money, and Plumas is basic aid. We're just a little bit more than what we would get from the state for our ADA funding. Yeah.
So, chronic absenteeism is horrible, right? If all those kids were not chronically absent, would it put us above where we're receiving more LCFF? And then discussion with the county about actually pursuing chronic absenteeism with the sheriff and the ADA.
So we have those programs in place. I don't know, I mean, I don't know what the calculation would be as far as how many students we would lose, how many ADA we lose because of absenteeism. I don't know what that number is. I don't feel like it would put us over, but I don't know, I would have to look at that, I'm not sure. But thing is bottom line, educationally, we need to have kids in school, regardless of whether we get money or not. And so the county office has people in place to follow up with that. Actually, there's been a really much better relationship with the district attorney. So where I come from in Tehama County, if you are truant and your parent is not cooperative, then the district attorney goes in and arrests you, books you in jail, and puts your face on the cover of the newspaper. A little bit hardcore, but yeah, we're one of the few counties that do that because our district attorney was willing to do that. And so, but it sure helped, I mean,
To answer your question on the county side, we do have a SAR process. And they redid that process this summer and worked closely with the district attorney. And he now has one designated person from his office that assists our SAR team when we do the hearings. And they're actually going over to the courthouse tomorrow to do some more work over there. So that, all of that work has increased greatly. And our chronic absenteeism, if I'm correct, went
Over 25% over the last 3 years, we've increased it. So we're always chasing the state average. Before COVID, we were below the state average.
But we have seen improvements.
And we're 12% lower than the state average right now, which is significantly better than we were post-COVID.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we just really need to focus on is chronic absenteeism in general, and through the SAR process and just through engagement with families and phone calls and, hey, why didn't, so-and-so show up? Is there anything we can do to help? Can we provide, something for you? So, good
This is
point.
more of like a comment than a question, but I think that just taking it back to, I think that's why it's really important to have the buses for how many people are relying on their transportation.
Yeah. Where am I here?
This went with the community.
Oh, that's where we were,
input summary.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, areas of recommended savings,
From the community.
community concerns, is that where we're at?
This is part of the community input summary, so part of the thing that the community shared for recommended for savings would be district office staffing and administrative costs, and then transportation restructuring,
Oh, okay,
and then the next one.
okay. Community concerns, desire for improved communication and transparency, fear of losing programs that define student experience, and worrying about rushed decisions without planning time. I feel like at this point that we're on a pretty good cycle as far as the planning part of things. So I think last year, things kind of got rushed to the end and didn't go so well, but I think we've started early enough to where the planning, like with Pioneer and Alder and staffing and all that stuff, we're in a pretty good spot timing wise for the most part. So then next steps is, so when does all of this happen? Oh, good.
Before you move on, I have a question about you kind of skipped over the facilities, and you talked about Alder and Quincy, but other facilities and operational costs. I'm curious, are we pursuing ways to bring down our operational costs at all of our school sites? I think the plan lists energy efficiency and different kinds of programs to lower operational costs. Where is that plan and what does it contain?
And as far as maintenance and
Yeah, and operating.
Okay. Actually, we have a fairly new maintenance and operations director, and he's fantastic. He does a great job. He's kind of I think he's at the point where he's feeling comfortable in his position, but he's super sharp and he knows about efficiencies. And so we're kind of putting that in his hands. He's been assessing the maintenance part of things on sites. I mean, if you go to, should we do solar, or should we do, that kind of stuff, we're probably not in a position right now to, put out money for that kind of stuff. But I think and a lot of that stuff, like lighting efficiencies and things like that, a lot of that has happened through Prop 39. It was just a grant that came through. And so some of those operating costs have been done, but there's still more to do. And we kind of put that on him to figure that stuff out. Is there other areas or?
I mean, we've got to have a lot of savings in just operating costs. Closing a campus seems like there would be some big cost savings, not just in the consolidation of staffing, but also in the operation of a building. It sounded like you want to keep open the building and rent it out. So I was just kind of curious about all of the different campus operational costs, and if you're looking at that when you're looking at consolidating, how much savings there's going to be. And I mean, I know a lot of the utilities may be able to provide assistance to help some of the school sites just become a little bit less cost intensive to run.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. On the Pioneer Alder thing, looking at the big picture, we're thinking that will save $600,000. And I don't know, I think some of this stuff is kind of hard to predict exactly how much it's going to save. We can calculate mostly the staffing part of it, and then on the facilities part, depends on, how many tenants we get, and we'll have to close down parts of it. Although the good thing is we won't need to do as much maintenance. The bathrooms and part of that facilities are really old and worn out, and so to keep it open, we would have to put money into it. So, and then in addition to that, we have bond money left over from some year, 2017 or something like that. So there's still bond money for facilities, and so when for the Alder site, if we have to make improvements there, we can use that bond money to make those improvements. And then I think even for, I don't know about the transition, but part of the transition might be able to be paid for out of that as well. So that bond money, some of that bond money is still there. So that's helpful too when it comes to facilities. Yeah.
Question about the cafeterias, I know that like CRC is a great kitchen staff, and at one point last year, they were talking about potentially like trucking food from one campus to every, where are you at with that?
It's a great idea, but I don't think it's gonna work, you know. I mean, it's a good thought, you know, it's efficient, but it's like, you're gonna truck something every day or twice, 2 or 3 times a day from Quincy or something, that doesn't make.
We didn't like that idea, so I was just sort of wondering where you were at with
Yeah,
the
you
decision,
know.
were you gonna?
We tried that during the last fiscal crisis and it didn't work.
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So like, for example, the people in Greenville, they're saying, oh, are you gonna close our school? And it's like, well, that would be efficient, but then we're gonna have to get all those kids in buses and send them to Chester and then send them to Quincy. And so practically, that's not gonna make a lot of sense. So no, we're not gonna close Greenville because the kids are there, they have their homes there, and it wouldn't be very efficient to bus them out of there or whatever. So, and they're all good thoughts, it's just that, you know, they don't all pan out when you look at them.
So we're not expecting too much to change in the cafeteria?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So from just like, you know, what's next kind of a thing, if you have this in your email or whatever, that would be probably a better way to look at it. But just in summary, so the winter now, so we're conducting operational and financial analysis. So that's the process right now, just operations and how fiscally that's going to work out. Engage with families and community, so that's part of what we're doing here. And identify final reductions and recommendations. So January through March is finalizing stabilization plans. So this is the stabilization plan, but it doesn't have all the details because we don't have all the numbers and we don't have all the positions on all that stuff. So we'll finalize this plan. We'll issue staffing notices, so layoff notices for those that are affected, both certificated and classified. Integrate initial reductions into the second interim report. So as we do, so financially, we'll do a second interim report and put these reduction in and basically see where we're at financially. You know, we're looking for 9.5, but we'll see where we end up. And then plan transition steps for the Quincy campus. So that's January through March. In spring, staffing finalization for the 26-27 school year and budget adoption. So hopefully when we get to spring, we have cut a lot, but we've also kept the integrity of our programs and supported our staff and supported our communities to a point where things are functional and doing well. And then beyond that, it's just a matter of monitoring our savings, continuing rebuilding our 3% reserve, and providing updates to California Department of Education and FCMAT. So every school district, well, our school district is required to have a 3% reserve, and the 3% reserve for us is about $1.3 million. We don't have that. We're actually negative. So the deal is that we also need to build up that reserve so that we get that $1.3 million back in the bank so that we can have that as things come up. So, you know, you always need a bank account. So that's what that is. Question?
Yes. Recently, Congress reinstated the Rural Schools Funding Act, and we were awarded $1.75 million of that. Is that funding considered in this current budget plan?
Not yet, because we haven't received it, but when we get it, we will. The problem with it is it's basically cash, so that's great. We're going to get that money in. That'll be fantastic to have the cash. We're not going to count on that money on the out years because every year everyone has to go to Washington, D.C. to fight for that secure rural schools funding. And so but it's good to have. That's a major victory that Doug LaMalfa, who unfortunately passed away today.
Yeah, this morning.
He really fought for us, and then just that whole Washington thing, I mean, I've been in this game for a long time, and we fought year after year after year with very little success on the secure rural schools. So this is the first year that I really feel like we've really made some traction on it.
The
So-
other piece on the SRS funding is, yes, it's 1.7.
Right, I know it has to be reauthorized
But
every
it's
year, but it's been around for 110 years.
But actually, it's separated out in many areas, so I think the district actually only receives 900,000 of that.
Okay,
Like
so,
some of it goes to FRC.
Yeah.
right, so, but because it's countywide for public ed, right?
And for road and safety, like it's split up in Plymouth County.
Okay, because Plumas County is the second largest recipient of that funding.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question is you had mentioned earlier the sale of Taylorsville, the school there. We currently are keeping the lights on over there, right?
It's being leased. I mean, they use it.
We
It's
use
not
it for
leased.
1 week in the summer, if I'm
No, we
not
don't use it
mistaken.
for that anymore, but is it the Sierra
Sierra
Institute? They use it.
Okay,
and
what-
they pay for that.
What funding, or I mean, what revenue are we making from that lease?
Not enough. It's not, and it's not an actual lease, I think they use it as when they use it, they pay those costs. Like, a daily use, what is the paperwork they have to fill out?
The facility.
The facility use.
Okay, so do we have an estimation of the annual cost for its upkeep?
You have to ask Stephanie, Chateau.
Yeah.
But we're selling it because it's,
Because we
The
don't want to
cost
pay for
is-
it.
I will send her an email.
Yeah.
The other question that I have is what positions at the DO are being considered for elimination?
In addition to the ones up there,
Yes,
we're looking at one in the business office or two in the business office, depending on how it works out. Yeah.
has there been a consideration of outsourcing human resources and the business office staff and reassigning them to where they're qualified in other positions in the district if possible, but outsourcing those services so that we actually have experts and qualified persons looking at those accounts and accounts receivable, accounts payable, human resources, things. We've had a slew of problems this year, some of which are not improving. So the union, teachers union, is concerned that if we continue to have these issues, right, that it's gonna come at a cost to the district. So would it not make sense to outsource those departments, keep essential personnel within the district, of course, but then be able to move appropriate personnel off of the PUSD payroll and into county office of ed? For example, service providers like nurses, speech pathologists, audiologists. That's what every other county office of ed seems to do.
So you've got a couple things going on there. So you're talking about human resources and business stuff? Is that-
Yes.
Okay, so no, we haven't thought about outsourcing that. That'd be a tough, maybe in the future, but at this point, no. A lot of those transitions have been people learning their jobs, and they're getting there, but it's taken a while, as you know. And then as far as the other piece of that, what was the last one? That was the
And nurses.
the
So
nurses and all that?
when I was in Sacramento County Office of Ed, or worked for a school district under them, for any services that San Juan Unified couldn't provide because of budget restrictions or whatnot, we'd call SCOE and they would send somebody. So-
Because we're a single.
Right, but as a single, we still can do that. We can still move nurses off of PUSD payroll and move them to the county office of ed.
so say you're a county office and you're supporting 25 school districts, you get, say, $300,000.
Correct, but that's not gonna make up for the personnel costs. That doesn't math out.
We just don't get the money that SCOE gets, so, I mean, it's something to definitely look into, but we're a single, it's so different than anywhere else.
But I think, the district's in really bad shape. The county office is in better fiscal condition. So the concept that you're talking about, I think is important. So those things we have been looking at is like, as far as, well, how can we support, programs in the district through the county office. Much of the district office is funded by the county office right now. I mean, that's the way it has been set up. So that is a benefit to the district from the county office as well. So
What services are being provided by the County Office of Ed to site? So I know like tech folks are from
Like,
county.
here's the org chart, you
Right.
can use my org chart.
That org chart is so complex. The other question I have, and this is actually coming from a member, okay, is that there is a concern that we, on each of these sites, we have one administrative assistant that helps with the entire school. And those folks are so overworked that we couldn't pay them enough for the work that they do. And it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense that we seem to have, according to this org chart, several administrative assistants for folks working in the district office when we only have one at each site. It seems almost like we're piling all of this work on to individuals at school sites, but it seems like everyone in the district office has help.
may appear that way.
It absolutely
have
appears
we?
that way.
We have 1, 2, 3.
So the business office, then there's, so Ed Services shares an Ed Services specialist between SPED and my department. So we share an Ed Services specialist. And then there's a PCOE one to support PCCS and
Which is
Our-
half-time.
and our county business office, and then the executive to the superintendents. And so the rest are like payroll and HR specialists, they're not actual admin assistants.
And we continue to look at those ratios and continue to look at staffing. So I think, I mean, I wasn't here last spring, but it seemed like the only real cuts that happened were in the district office. But, you know, that's my, maybe I'm not right, but that was the perception.
After we went to court, that's when that got rectified.
Okay.
I think we need to do a better job of showing PCOE and PUSD.
Yeah,
And the percentage, because, you know, if you look at say there's 30 people on here, 15 work for the PCOE and 15 work for PUSD, but out of the 15 for PUSD, 25% of their salary is paid out of the county. But we haven't found a way to be transparent, to show that, to help people understand, because I think we're just starting to understand that over the last 2 years.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't understand it because every year, everybody is supposed to receive a, notification of where their funding's coming from, whether it's from the school district or the county office, and that's a requirement. So then it should be clear.
that happens.
Yeah, that's the law.
It's a lot.
I mean, I've never been in a single, so I don't know how that works.
That's a law, no matter where you work.
That's much bigger.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're a county office, then all the money comes from the county
Well,
office.
so for example, Jared, like, so I'm funded out of the PUSD, but I represent PCOE and PUSD, and so.
That's a lot of acronyms, can you break that down
Okay.
for us common folk?
Yes. Yeah. So Plumas Unified School District, this is where we're in our fiscal crisis. Plumas County Office of Education, most offices of education would operate for many different school districts. We're in a single, we all share the same building, so it gets super confusing. So I work for both entities, but I'm paid by PUSD, and PCOE gives PUSD funds to support part of my salary.
Okay.
But we've never clearly said, okay, Missy's paid 75% out of the PUSD and 25% out of PCOE. It just shows that I'm a PUSD employee. So we need to do a better job of sharing with our community how people are funded. We know, but we haven't shared that out.
I know.
So then, you had said that there was no consideration of outsourcing, but if all those positions had been outsourced, then would we really be in this position? Because there would have been somebody actually overseeing it and not cooking the books and not,
Yeah.
and then we might actually, where are we on our audits, right? Are all the audits caught up?
They've been working on like 23, 24,
So now,
and so, yeah, that one will be done this month. So no, it's just,
So-
yeah.
you
So-
know,
going back and trying to put those puzzles together is.
Oh, right, no, I understand the complexity of it, that
Yeah.
you're handed this crap sandwich and you're trying to figure it out. But if all of that was outsourced, that company would have that right now, right? Not the past stuff, but moving forward. So then you have qualified people that do that full time versus people that are just in our community and open for positions. And as a matter of fact, something interesting, you recently listed the CBO job, right,
Right,
on EdJoin? Did you read the description of the requirements for that position?
at some point, yes, I did.
Really?
CPO mean?
Chief Business
Official.
Because the preferred requirement is you have a CBO certification and a bachelor's degree, not the requirement to be in that position. And that job position was adjusted for the previous person that had,
Correct.
put us in a dumpy position. And then, if you look at your pay scale, your reference to it does not have a CBO position. It has a central business officer versus your chief or whatever it's called now.
Chief Business Officer.
Right, which is not on the pay scale for the admin there.
Okay. I'll have to look at that again, but.
Yeah, we would hate to have to repeat history all over again, wouldn't we?
We're not doing that.
What's
Yeah.
the percentage of staff in PCOE and PUSD that were part of the issue that are still employed to date? Do
Good
you know
question.
roughly a percentage?
I mean, I wasn't here, so I'm not
You know
sure.
that?
You can't use that line, sir, you're here now, so you gotta have some answers. Politician comment.
I'm just curious because we're repeating, we're not,
Yeah.
nothing's fixed if the same problems are there. And then we're saying that pays are set, but you have is the person an HR qualified HR person? Do they have all their credentials and certificates?
In my opinion, our Director of HR is qualified, yes. But, yeah.
So are all the positions in the district offices? Are they certified? Are they?
Many of them don't have certifications because they don't require
Are they
certifications.
qualified?
I would say, yeah, I'd say most of them are, even though some of them are new to their positions and they
That
are.
does not mean they're qualified.
Right, they're getting
And most of them doesn't
mentorship, they're getting training, that's what we're dealing with. So, when you're saying, outsource this stuff,
Like
like
payroll, you could outsource payroll.
Zoom, like,
So you do, you hire an outside company
yeah,
and they do all your books for you. You send them, they run your payroll, they process your purchases, they do everything.
So we have a good little backstory to reinforce what you're saying, is we had a business and we struggled to get billers for insurance.
I was just thinking that.
And we struggled for years, we lost money, we just threw it away. I mean, we might as well have been smoking it. Somebody turned us on to a website called Upwork.com, which is what this gentleman's saying, they're experts in their field. We hired them and we were really scared because the lady that worked with us, she was from the Philippines, but she was completely trained, years of experience, and dude, she smoked it. Like,
Yeah.
she made everybody else look stupid. She made us money.
She was one of the moderate paid compared to some of the higher paying billing companies. I used individuals and billing companies,
Yeah.
and they sucked. But she totally, and also then I didn't have that on my payroll, because they were all
Yes.
like either direct employees or 1099. And so utilizing her, that contracted service outsourced, ended up saving my agency tons of money, because I didn't have that overhead I had to carry.
And being rural, it is tough to
Yeah,
find
it
someone with
is,
that
right.
qualification especially.
And you
Yeah.
can train a person and mentor them, but that's not the same as them actually, that's what they went to school for, and they studied, and they actually have hands-on experience. Otherwise, you're gonna end up in the same situation all over again.
Yeah.
You're repeating the same cycle.
Yeah, and so it cost us a lot less money, as Kristen was saying, with the overhead, and then they were so much more efficient, it saved us tons of money that direction. And they were more effective.
in that particular program, not that I'm selling it, I don't need kickbacks, but it was awesome because it actually kept an eye on what they were doing, so it had like an automatic audit. So I could actually go in and see the work that she was doing and what I was paying her for. So,
And there's lots of those companies. What's that one website, Fiverr? Pay somebody $5 to do whatever you want? I mean.
you laugh, but
Yeah, I mean, it goes up from there, you know,
I'm
that's.
not seeing them owe
TaskRabbit.
$9.5 million, so.
It's another one.
Yeah.
So.
You need
I
a
mean,
dresser.
so it sounds like a resource you guys have.
So that may work for some positions, you know, yeah, it may work for some positions.
What's
Yeah.
the percentage of teachers that are jobs, positions that are gonna get notices?
Percentage?
Or just the number,
Uh,
like, I don't know.
2%.
I guess you would probably notice, I would think, that, you know, how many teachers and principal, like the number required for the class sizes and for each campus, and we got all those,
Right.
like, what is the number of teachers, you know, office staff
Yeah.
total for the starting?
So that's fairly easy at the elementary level. We can go through an elementary school and consolidate classes and do those things and come up with that. The outlier right now is we haven't figured out the high school piece of it because of the master schedules. So, you know, I mean, don't quote me here, but I'm thinking somewhere in the teens or maybe high teens as far as teachers. I'm just trying to be transparent, but I'm not, you know, it's that, but we don't have a number at this point. So, yeah.
Is Mrs. Sheridan here?
It's right there.
Oh, I'm blind.
You just showed her age.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what I get. We're hearing all this and it's a lot of work. How, are you feeling optimistic and is your staff feeling optimistic that this is gonna work? That we're gonna have a school to come to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what he's saying is true. I mean, there's no way around it, but.
But you're not a politician, so that's why we want to ask you.
My goal, I think the goal of our whole staff is to make sure that our students and our families don't feel this, right? Now, can I guarantee there's not gonna be cuts?
Okay.
Right, so we're gonna do whatever we can to compensate here to make sure that our students don't feel these cuts. Are there going to be cuts? Yes, there's gonna be cuts, but I have a lot of other eyes looking at this. It's not just me. I have a team around me at the site who I trust, and then we're looking at our master schedule, we're looking at our numbers. We've talked to our students, we've given surveys. We know what our students want and what we can provide. And I think that we're gonna do a good job. Again, the goal is for you not to feel it, for our students not to feel it, and I think we can. I've been here, this is my 14th year in this position as principal here. When I first started, we had some really bad cuts happening, and we've navigated, we always have. We will, there's no other option. So, the kids are a priority, and we're gonna make it work. We have a great group of parents, community members, that sit on our site council, that donate money, that are gonna help us make this happen.
Boosters will be a big.
Huge, I already talked to Mr. Club about how we can, really pick up some of the slack to the athletic programs and the extracurriculars we offer, and I'm feeling very confident about that. We've done a pretty good job in the past, we've been self-sufficient here. We have donation pots that we've kept pretty healthy, and I continue to, I believe that will continue.
What is it? Let's just keep working on that communication though.
Yeah.
Make sure we get that out.
And will, it's just right now,
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to put anything on because we don't know. I'm working with district office staff, in the early stages, but when we can, that will be communicated, as soon as we're able.
Thank you, sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's not.
Well, and Misty and I were just talking before the meeting, like,
This is Kate.
when I taught, it was last year's group of seniors, the year before. I had them as a second, third grade split, 34 kids in my class. Like 34 second and third graders. And Misty was in the second grade class next to me, and it's like, well, and the kids survived, like, I mean, that was one of, my favorite classes ever. Because I taught like in 6th and 12th, but like, they don't know any different. And we were also talking about when I think I was a junior, I remember being in Miss Osborne's classroom. And I had Mr. Martinez as a history teacher, and he called in the fire department because we were sitting up on the sides, we were on the floors. He's like, this has gotta be, max capacity fire hazard. So he called the fire department and they're like, no. And I remember him having the same conversations that Miss Banning's probably having with her students with us. But I told Sarah and Missy and I were talking about, like, we don't remember that. I remember loving Mr. Martinez and I remember sitting on the ground in class, but he was a great teacher and I learned a ton. Like, and Sarah's so good about protecting the kids, like, I don't think they're really gonna feel it. I mean, they will, like Camila's worried about AP classes, but my own kids, like, our daughters took high-level math on, line last year. They took FRC classes. I think what Rich is saying is huge with co-enrollment classes. FRC is telling us all the time, like, we will add more online classes if you have the kids disciplined. So I think we just have to look at our resources. There's things out there, we can't get away from the $9.5 million, and there's solutions, so we can complain all we want, but really there's, like Jessica's saying, talk to the local, electric companies, maybe outsource HR, I think that's a great idea. It's like there's so many things we can look at to save money, but the kids, I grew up here in a huge classroom, and I sat on the floor or up on the side, and I loved it. So, they will survive. I make sure that, yes.
I agree, Erin. And I think as parents and community members, we're just gonna have to as a student here, there wasn't a single activity that I participated in that we didn't fundraise for. And I think that's really gone by the wayside as a parent. There's not much that we've had to fundraise for, and I feel like as a community, that's just something we're gonna have to be willing to adopt again to make sure our kids still have those opportunities. And if we have as much community involvement and as kids that want to support the programs that they're doing, we can still provide these extras that the kids or as parents are afraid are gonna go away. We just are gonna have to put a little more work into it from a community perspective. The amount that we used to do as kids to support our programs when we were growing up here, now as employees, it's night and day. The kids there's not as much fundraising that's been happening in previous years. And I don't think it's a bad thing to teach kids to work for programs that they want. And if we have to adopt a different mentality than they've been accustomed to, there might be some complaining, but there's solutions to it too.
I was actually shocked when I started working here as to how much was provided at no charge to students, because I came from Sacramento and you pay for everything in Sacramento. Sports, busing, if your district even offered it. Even when I was in high school, there were 3,500 students in my high school. And so it was a very different experience, and coming here was heaven, and I still feel that way. Okay, I don't want to knock our district in that sense at all. But I think it's time to pay the piper a little bit. It's unfortunate that it's happening this way, but I think we have to look at very realistic solutions. I actually think cutting busing is going to, I think that actually is, and I get the cost savings. Can we look into maybe creating some kind of payment plan or something? Because I grew up in a district that cut busing, and it was a nightmare. We made it work. I don't know how, but I also lived we had public transit, and we had elementary schools. There's 54 campuses in my high school district, or in my school district, San Juan. And so we only lived a mile from our elementary school. That is not the situation here, right? If we were to close Greenville, and I pray that we never have to do that, that is an extraordinary expense. And thinking of little bitty kids on a bus for an hour and a half in each direction, or if we have, inclement weather, which we have here all the time, it's right outside right now. Those are my concerns about cutting busing, is how are kids going to get to school? A lot of our students here don't drive, or they can't afford to do that. That's not in their family's budget to have insurance or to be able to get a driver's license. So I think looking at that, I honestly, I really hate the idea of cutting busing. I do get it. That's not the issue. I'm just saying the realities and the logistics of getting kids to school and butts and seats. Cutting busing is not going to help that. And if we ever flip back from basic aid to LCFF, and we are not meeting those ADA requirements, this financial situation is gonna get a lot worse. So those are my long-term concerns, and I have 3 roles in this district. I'm the teachers union president, a teacher, and a parent. So I really have huge concerns about my community in terms of its longevity. How are we attracting businesses for the future of the community if we don't have a sustainable school system? All of those things in my economics brain are firing right now. But right now, looking at how can we save money right now, I get that there has to be cuts. I understand layoffs are legal and I hate them, okay? And I'm gonna have to fight you here in a few months, and I get that too, right? But the impact in the classroom has to be minimized.
I agree.
And putting kids online is not the solution. And it's just not. A human being cannot be replaced by a computer. That is not a reality. That is not how kids learn. That is irresponsible. And I hate seeing it now. I couldn't teach AP US history last year because I had to add on another class, and I can't do everything. I cannot take on another prep to teach. And the guilt I felt for those kids having to do that was immense, right? And all the teachers here are stretched. We are stressed out and we are stretched to our core. And asking us to do anything else, I fear that people are gonna flee the profession. We're seeing a 5-year burnout nationwide. 160,000 teachers left a year ago. They didn't finish their contract for the school year nationwide. So we are creating bigger problems if we're gonna continue to lay people off, because who are we gonna hire when we need them? We can't attract young teachers here who are cheaper, right? Most of the teachers on our seniority list right now are mid-career. Our number 1 ranked person on our seniority list is still 5 to 10 years from retirement. So, and we also are the 3rd lowest paying district in the region. And I have numbers to show that. I have receipts. And that's concerning, because if we can't keep teachers on staff and they're fleeing to neighboring districts, how do we sustain what we've even got? And then with that looming layoff on top of that, what are we doing? Right? And I know there's no solid answer for that. And I'm not trying to
And I'm not disagreeing.
And but it's just like, those are the concerns that we should have as a community.
Right.
And those are the problems that we really have to start finding valuable and sustainable solutions for. And you have a student over there who has a question.
Oh.
It's not really a question, but more so like a comment, like kind of building off what you're saying, Tammy, like, our teachers are so stretched already, like, and you guys are talking about like protecting us, and like, we appreciate all of you guys, like, what you guys do, like, it's crazy, but we feel it, like, it's nothing new to us, like, we feel this, like, and we can see all these teachers are stressed, like, they're stressed to the max trying to provide for us, but nobody's providing for them. Like, there's not positions being filled because we can't fill those positions anymore. But then we're gonna take more away, but then that takes more away from us, because now these teachers are going to have to fight for their positions, but then you're taking them out of classrooms. So we're not getting the education that we want or that they wanna give us. So how is that fair to us as students or them as teachers in general? And then like, we have 1 nurse, and I love you or something. I go in there all the time. I have shoulder issues. I need a nurse, like, so what happens, like, if these people get cut that are necessary, like, not saying that you're getting cut or anything, but like, if these people do end up being cut, like, then we don't have help as students for like necessities. These teachers are necessities to us. Like, we need them.
Well said.
We received notification yesterday about e-therapy services going away. Was that due to budget issues or a separate concern?
That was specifically funded by a specific grant. That grant ran out way back in November. And that is the other issue that we face, is a lot of these grants that the state gave us during COVID and after COVID, they're no longer funding those.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you back here, though.
Sorry, so one of the issues that we're facing is during COVID and after COVID, the state started giving us all of these monies and grants to help support students from everything that happened. So one of the grants was the MHSSA grant. That grant was used for providing e-therapy services. And all of that funding has ran out. It ran out last November. and the state is no longer providing any more funds. They're not, reallocating funds under those grants. So we're also, facing a lot of issues with our own state not continuing to provide funding.
For mental health,
Well, school funding in California is broken. It has always been, since the 1970s. And there is actually a tax bill coming up in November in the general election. You'll hear it as like the Prop 55 extension. And that's another danger facing our community. It is an existing tax that expires in 2030. It's now been retitled the California Children's Education and Health Medical Safety Protection Act. And this is a CTA union-sponsored bill that we're collecting signatures for now to get it on the ballot. Whether you love unions or not, guys, sorry, but we are looking out for kids. Prop 55 currently funds about 15% of our total school budget, if I've got the numbers correct. I think it's like between 14 and 17% on average for school districts up and down the state. It taxes the wealthiest Californians who make more than $750,000 a year.
And it's already existing.
It already exists.
This tax is already in place.
It's already there. If it expires in 2030, almost every school district is estimated to go bankrupt and that 1 in 5 teachers will lose their jobs. That's the current estimation. So in November, not to push a political message here, but that funding, especially for those of us who are in these financial crises right now, I mean, Sacramento City Unified's facing that, San Francisco Unified, like big districts are in big trouble right now. If we were to lose that funding, I'm not sure how we would operate. So this bill would make that tax permanent. So that's just information.
The bill number?
We don't have a bill number assigned yet.
It was
Prop 55, yeah.
So it's existing currently on the books as Prop 55, set to expire in
2030.
2030. So it's on the ballot this year to extend that as a permanent taxation on any household making more than $750,000 annual income. And
Prop
it's
55 is 550,000, so did it go up now for couples?
It's, the new bill will say it at
Well, yeah,
750,000 for total household income, yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's for, so it's an existing tax. It's not new to California. We've renewed it twice now. If this doesn't get renewed though, we are looking at a 20% cut statewide in terms of teachers and school district budgets. No school district right now can survive that, especially ours.
If we're
So,
thankful
yeah.
for the secure rural schools funding, like this is another one that we should really be looking at needing to maintain, because this is a consistent annual income, especially if we're working on what's being granted to us from state taxation revenue as opposed to ADA.
Right.
So there are things that we can be more aware of, and we do have a role to play, and it's not like we're taking this like laying down, right? Like we're all here trying to find solutions, but there are certain things that are really worth fighting for.
Definitely. Oh, yes.
So the last meeting I had asked about breaking up communities into different districts.
Yes.
And you had said you had put that to the state, and the state said,
The state said, actually, I thought the state was gonna say, yeah, forget it, but they weren't they weren't as resistant as I thought. So what he's talking about is, you have multiple districts in a county. So I came from Tehama County, I was a county superintendent, I had 13 school districts. I got $200,000 per district, plus I got $300,000 for every district that was in DA. And so so as a county office, I got a bunch of money. Well, in Plumas County, since we're a single, we don't get that. So what he's referring to is, what if we broke up into Portola being their own district and Quincy being their own district and Chester being their own district, then we would be able to realize some of that revenue. And I think it's a great idea. I thought they were gonna completely shut me down, but they were like, eh. So actually, we're meeting with them Thursday, and I'm gonna bring it up again. But then we've got to figure out the advocacy part of it and how to advocate for that. And then, so then it's either break us up into separate districts or fund us like we're separate districts. Either way, I don't really care, but bringing in the funds is what matters. And so, yeah, that's being worked on for sure.
And then my other question had been, 9.5 million feels big, especially when you look at it district-wide, right? And I had asked, what would theoretically Portola PHS's responsibility if we were cutting it, equally, evenly for that 9.5?
And no,
Like, what would our portion of having to cut be?
I mean, I don't know how you do that. You'd probably like do it per, like enrollment per, so I don't know what the percentages are. But probably pretty easy to figure it out if you broke it out, but I can't do that math in my head, so. And, sorry, yeah.
So as the COVID grants have phased out, what are we doing to bring new grants in to help support our crab sandwich? You know what I'm saying, like, so.
Well, we look at the grants, like the state offers more grants, but there's not like a ton of grants being offered that would support like the positions that we've currently hired. Like we got excited and applied for one grant, it's the bridge grant. And we were excited, like, okay, this will be additional funding, we can use it for people. Well, it ended up being a $15,000 grant, and that's if you got the max of it. So again, like Alicia was saying, the state's broke, and unfortunately, what we're seeing with education, it doesn't seem to be the priority of the state.
So it's kind of shift from mental health to literacy. So our department just applied for some literacy grants. So it really is based on, what the state wants to fund and what grants they push out. And so we should be getting some literacy funding, but it'll be funneled through Plumas County Office of Education and then can be given out to the district.
So can we look for grants that aren't through the state, like, are there private grants, are there national grants? I don't know how it works, I'm just asking.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's grants that just come through automatically that are just easy, we just get them or do an application and get them. There's other ones that we seek after, and some of them are really good, some of them aren't worth applying for because the match and everything is not worth the time, but yeah, we're always on the edge of the grants and just trying to figure out if they're gonna be a fit or not. And then some of them, we're looking at our big budget, and so many of the grants will fund this thing, but it doesn't really help you with, your big budget. So, which, you might be able to hire someone to do something good with it, but it's not really helping your other budget. So, but we continue to keep our eyes out for grants, and I'm not sure on the private side of it, but the public grants are always there. Sorry to keep you silent.
Have we looked at any foundations or any other types of organizations that besides grants, some foundations that might be able to support us? I just, there's so many things that I know are going to get cut over the next, couple of years. It would be, like you were saying, if we could do fundraising or specific outreach to different organizations to try to fill some holes for things that the community finds to be valuable. It would be better for us to know what holes we gotta fill so we can approach different foundations or grants, and so the more transparent you can be and communicate, these are where the gaps are, this is where we need help, that's where the community can maybe step in and try to help. But if we don't know what's going to get cut, it'll be, no one will be happy.
Right.
And it will be too late to try to pursue any additional revenue or funds.
Yeah, that's good. And we'll know soon. We'll know January, February, anyway. So, yes.
Is there any connection between this large cut in scholarships for graduating seniors?
I'm not sure how that works.
Oh, are you meaning like the Assist-A-Grad?
Yeah.
So the Assist-A-Grad scholarships are usually, and Sarah and Aaron, you
Yeah,
can
so
probably
there's
speak
not,
on, that's not.
that, Audra Fleming's one that does a lot of the work. in working with the donors, and I actually think this year, we actually had more than we did last year. So we're seeing an increase there, and I think as the community sees the need, for our schools, they're stepping up, and we have new scholarships that just come in the last couple of weeks. So I think you're gonna see it being a very, very strong, robust program this year.
I think
So
most,
excited
like,
for that.
all of the assist-a-grad are like individual, either individual or some sort of community-based, funding source.
Good question. Okay, any final thoughts? Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. We've got a tough year ahead of us. And so I think with your support and with your involvement and with your input, we're gonna get through it. And I think someone said over there that they're not seeing, that our students, I don't think our students are going to be super impacted by this, you know, on a campus standpoint. There's gonna be impacts, but as far as your school site goes, I mean, I think, that's the goal, is to keep these cuts away from the school site if possible. Can't keep them all away from the school site, but as much as we can do. So I think we're gonna get through this, we're gonna be stronger, we're going to end up getting back on our fiscal footing, and then we'll be good to go. We'll have a long-term payment, and that'll be negative, but, we just gotta get back to the baseline financially. So, while keeping everything intact, not everything intact, but what's important intact anyway. So, any final thoughts? I just wanna thank you for your time, thank you for being here, thank you for caring, and just, we're in this together. So we're gonna do this, and we're gonna be better coming out the other end. So thank you.